The Islamic State in Iraq and Syria, or ISIS, is a group of militants so brutal that even al-Qaeda considers them too extreme. They've already seized control of Iraq's second largest city and have Baghdad in their sights. Some consider their leader to be the new Osama bin Laden. And as Brian Todd reports, there are fears ISIS is looking to attack the United States.
Some call him the new bin Laden. He's ruthless, known for ferocious attacks. His mission? To fight for an Islamic fundamentalist takeover of Iraq and Syria. Much about Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi is a mystery, but not his viciousness.
Very brutal, very extremist fighter who would execute his rivals.
As the leader of the Islamic State in Iraq and Syria, al-Baghdadi is seen as the man behind the capture of Iraq's second largest city, Mosul, and now a push toward Baghdad. But al-Qaeda leaders recently severed relations with him, saying he was insubordinate, killing too many civilians.
Al-Qaeda thought his infliction of random violence was too extreme even for them.
Yet now, with his recent victories on the ground, he's growing in power.
Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi is emerging as a central figure in the jihadist movement, and his organization is growing ever more popular.
A counterterrorism official tells us al-Baghdadi is based primarily in Syria and is just as ruthless as his well-known predecessor, Abu Musab al-Zarqawi. But while Zarqawi released menacing statements and videos before being killed by American forces in 2006, al-Baghdadi keeps a lower profile. Some call him the invisible sheikh.
Except among his very, very inner circle, he's rumored to disguise his identity, wear masks, wear turbans, wear face cloths, not let his identity be known.
According to this biography circulating on jihadi websites, he got a PhD in Islamic studies in Baghdad, then formed a local militant group. American forces had him in custody for 4 years in a prison for insurgents, where he may have built ties with other jihadists. He was freed in 2009, and within a year was the leader of Iraq's al-Qaeda affiliate, heading up a renewed campaign of bombings and assassinations. What's Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi's future?
If he's able to hold on to territory in northern Iraq for an extended period of time, he may well eclipse Ayman al-Zawahiri in terms of being a leader figure in the global jihadist movement.
But to do that, he's got to survive. All three of his immediate predecessors as the top jihadist leaders in Iraq were killed. And right now, Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi's got a U.S. bounty on his head of $10 million. Brian Todd, CNN, Washington.
All right, let's talk more about this so-called new bin Laden and his followers with Bobby Ghosh. He is the managing editor of QZ.com and was Times Baghdad bureau chief from 2006 to 2011. Good to see you, Bobby.
Hi, Frederica.
So why is it that the general public is just now hearing about this ISIS when apparently many lawmakers and policymakers have known about ISIS for some time now?
Yes, they began life as an al-Qaeda offshoot in Iraq. When the war in Syria began, they moved some of their forces there. That's where they gathered steam, became bigger, more powerful, started attracting more followers from around the world. And then when they suffered some setbacks in Syria, they turned their attention more recently back into Iraq, and that's where they've been most successful.
So was there a missed opportunity to kind of head off its growing power?
Well, there were many missed opportunities going back 10 years to cut this thing off, head this off at the pass. Getting rid of Zarqawi, who you mentioned there, one of the previous leaders, the founder of al-Qaeda in Iraq, helped a little bit, but then once the American troops withdrew and the Iraqi government then failed to follow up with security and political measures with the Sunnis in the West, this group sort of kind of got a new lease of life. And so, and now they are, as your report suggested, the most successful terrorist group in modern times. And this guy is Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi is a very different kind of terrorist from what we've seen before. He's not satisfied with simply blowing things up or having people killed or sending up suicide bombers, although he does all of those things. But he actually wants to hold territory. He wants to build a country. He wants to take big cities like Mosul, 2 million people. He wants to appoint governors there and district level officials. He wants to rule and that is very, very different. His group actually is in some ways more similar to the Taliban in Afghanistan than it is to Al-Qaeda.
So you really lay out some of the differences between his leadership style and, say, that of Osama bin Laden. But what is it about him that he is able to, I guess, garner this kind of following and allow him to be so influential?
Well, the mystery about him certainly helps, as you pointed out. Very few people have seen him. There are only 2 or 3 photographs available of him, unlike bin Laden or Zawahiri. He doesn't issue videos. There are a couple of audio releases that people think that might be his voice, but we're not 100% certain. So there's an air of mystery around him. But the real reason why people are flocking to him is because he's successful. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Success attracts followers, and in the world of terrorism, he's the most successful leader out there. And so young people around the world who want to join the jihad, who want to go and fight this perverse kind of fight, they're looking for leaders, and they look at this guy and they say, look, he's taking so much territory, he's been so successful in 2 different countries, this is the person I want to go and follow.
So, you say ISIS really took advantage of that kind of vacuum in security in Iraq, especially when U.S. troops left. But was there any alternative? Isn't it the case that Iraq asked the U.S. to leave, more so demanded the U.S. to leave in 2011, and so there really were no options? Was it the mistake of Nouri al-Maliki that perhaps, he didn't have a handle of security of this country like he thought he might with U.S. troops out?
Well, absolutely. It was not simply the removal of U.S. troops, which, as you point out, was done at the insistence of the Iraqi government. The United States the Obama administration, just as it is doing in Afghanistan, wanted to leave a small force in Iraq and was told, thanks, but no thanks. We've got this covered. That's what pretty much Nouri al-Maliki said. I wonder how he feels about that today. But it was his policies after the U.S. left, his failure to embrace the Sunni, who make up 20% of his country, to reassure them that they too would have a role in the new Iraq. In fact, he did the opposite. He sidelined them. He arrested or issued arrest warrants against their top political leadership. He disenfranchised them, and that contributed to the environment in which this terrorist group then was able to revive itself and then flourish.
Wow, so a miscalculation on one hand and then perhaps mismanagement on the other. Bobby Ghosh, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Anytime.